I want to ask you a question. Are you ready for marriage? And this is really the question people should ask themselves before they are married. Am I ready for marriage? Because marriage is a piece of work and it can become a wrecking ball. It's wrecked a lot of people's lives. 50% of marriages, first marriages, end in divorce. 70% of second and third marriages, and then fourth, fifth marriages, there's no hope. No hope. The statistics are so bad that only Jesus can sustain someone out of a divorce court. Now listen, there is a lot of hope in the Lord. Outside the Lord, no hope. And I'll say this, let's talk to you, whether married or not married, because here at the Hub we try to help people, and we are doing series of marriage classes and seminars. We have small groups to help with marriages. We have marriage counseling for free. We want to invest in your family, and our children's church and then marriages are two key places where we want to put strong focus and emphasis on getting your family healthy, and that is our commitment to you. Now listen, Paul writing about this subject in 1 Corinthians 7, he talks about this in verse 6. But I speak this by permission and not of commandment. For I would that all men were even as I myself. How was Paul? Paul was single and he had separated from his wife. After his encounter with God, his wife could not take that man anymore. He became from a Saul to a Paul, wrecked even his own marriage. And he was single all the way to his death. But every man has his proper gift of God, one after this manner and another after that. So his gift was to be single and to stay unmarried. I say therefore to the unmarried and widows, it is good for them if they abide even as I. He says, if your husband died, your wife died, and you choose to stay single, or if you have never been married and you choose to stay single, he says it is good for them if they abide even as I. And you know why? He said it is because being married will mean it will be hard for you to focus 100% on the Lord. But being married, unmarried and single makes the Lord your only focus. That's what Paul argues. And then he says, but if they cannot contain themselves, let them marry. For it is better to marry than to burn. And this is where many people say, hey, I'm burning with lust and passion for sexual activity, and the Bible says marry, and so I'm just going to marry. And I'll tell you, it does not fix that problem. If you have lust, get delivered. If you're into pornography, get delivered and get married when you're healthy. I'll just leave that there. But if they cannot contain themselves, let them marry, for it is better to marry than to burn. And unto the married I command you not, I, but the Lord. Let not the wife depart from her husband. This is Paul saying, don't divorce. But and if she depart, if she chooses to depart, or he chooses to depart, let her remain unmarried, or be reconciled to her husband, and let not the husband put away his wife. So Paul is preaching reconciliation of marriages. But to the rest, to everybody else who is not married, who is widowed, who has never been married, to the rest, I speak not. To the rest, speak I, not the Lord. It is me, not the Lord. He says, if any brother has a wife that believes not, and she be pleased to dwell with him, let him not put her away. If the wife is not a believer, or a husband is not a believer, the Bible says, and the woman which has a husband that believes not, and if he be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Else were your children unclean, but now they are holy. So Paul says all these things to say, even when the husband is not saved or the wife is not saved, the one who is saved can stay in the marriage and it is all right. But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. If the one who does not believe chooses to leave, let them go. A brother or a sister is not under bondage in such cases. Meaning, now they can remarry if they want to, but God has called us to peace. Paul says, but please create peace before all these things happen. For who knows, O wife, whether you shall save your husband, or who knows, O man, whether you shall save your wife. But as God has distributed to every man, as the Lord has called everyone to, let him walk, and so ordain I in all churches. So, let's talk about, how do I know I'm ready to marry? Number one, you know you are ready to marry because God has called you to marry. Paul says there are people who are not called to be married. They are called to be single. Like him, he was called to be single. Of course, he was called to be single after he had been married before. We know that by the fact that nobody became a Pharisee or a high-ranking leader like Paul was when he was a Saul. If you were not married, you could not be a Pharisee of the Pharisee like he was. Very high-ranking. You had to have a wife. But Paul's wife left when Paul became a Paul and not a Saul and became an apostle. It was part of that encounter with Jesus and how it wrecked the rest of his life. It was like being hit by a semi pretty much, or a train. His conversion was radical, and I can totally understand the wife would not be able to deal with that level of change and transformation that happened within a couple of days. So again, he says, if you are called to be single, stay single. If you are called to be married, stay married. So how do you know you are called to be married? You burn. You don't have the grace to restrain. And some people are struggling with porn, masturbation, and all that. Get delivered first from all that. But also, after you get delivered, get married. Get married. And that is all I will say about that call. And of course, have you found a partner? And you are dating and you are in courtship. Get married. Now you know you are ready because you found someone that is a good fit for you. It's someone who aligns and connects with you. So that's a sign. But here are other signs that I should say they are for readiness. Number one is biological preparedness. Biological preparedness. This is age factor. Marry someone who is over 21. That's my recommendation. You can marry someone who is 18, 19, 20, but there is another level of maturity at 21. The brain has developed, the maturity has developed. I know in the Bible people got married at 13, 14, but in what I'm going to advise, I'm going to say right now, get someone who has completed at least college. Completing college is 21, sometimes 24, 23. But the longer someone stays and they are in their 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, they've been around the block and they are broken. And you're going to find someone who is a piece of work that needs some work to be done. And I'm talking to all the people in my age group. Nobody who is over 30 that is not been around the block and somehow damaged. And so if you're going to get married, you're going to find someone who has had children, has gotten married, has had breakups, and they have experiences, and some of those experiences are bad. They haven't even gotten better by those experiences. Some of those experiences have destroyed the person. And so you're dealing with someone who is either wounded or healing or traumatized. And so understand, as you're dealing with older people, they are more damaged. As you're dealing with the younger people, unless they have gone through the hell and high water, like most people have, I don't know. But you need to be very careful again that people are being exposed to a lot at a young age, and you could be talking of someone who is in their early 20s and they are also pretty damaged. So you know you are ready to marry because someone is biologically mature but also emotionally mature. Emotional maturity is not same to biological maturity. Spiritual maturity contributes to emotional maturity. Some people are not emotionally able to handle the stresses of marriage. They are not. They cannot have hard conversations. They are not emotionally ready to face the pressure and the demands of marriage. Pressure and demand of marriage. It's there. Financial pressure, responsibility. If a man does not have the ability to handle, if a man is not ready to handle the responsibilities of a relationship that come with the relationship, financial responsibilities, even to be able to decide, to make decisions, to be able to rule the family well, to give grace, to raise girls. Girls are different than boys. Girls, they make you have to develop emotionally. Be a father or a mother, not just a man, not just a woman, not just male, not just female. Any man who has raised a teenage girl successfully should be ordained into pastoral ministry immediately, with no questions answered. You've passed the test. It tests your patience. It tests your self-control. It tests your emotions. It makes you kind and gentle and able to listen and be compassionate. I hate the word empathy because it's a woke word, but compassion is different from empathy because compassion does something about it. Empathy is like, honey, I know you're having a bad day. I'll just give you space, but does nothing about it. And so we have people who just want you to understand that I deal with depression, okay? So when I'm having my moment, stay away. Don't do nothing about it. I deal with depression. That's it. But compassion, Jesus was led by compassion and healed. And he was driven by compassion to heal, meaning compassion brings healing. Empathy just says, I'm not going to touch it. I understand you deal with your depression. You're having your moment. So have at it. I'm going to be here. And you, when you're done, let me know. When it's safe, let me know. Oh, today I can't work. I'm having depression. Other than today, I'm dealing with the depression. I need a miracle. It's today I'm dealing with depression and I can't work and don't talk to me. That's empathy. Compassion is today I'm dealing with depression. I need a breakthrough. And you break that thing off. It's a spirit. Are you with me? So again, emotional maturity is the ability to confront emotions, to deal with emotions, and to not let emotions govern you and wreck your relationships. If you are led by emotions, if you're too emotional and you have no control on emotions, you cannot control anger, depression, anxiety, panic attacks. Those are emotions too. And they are spirits of fear and trauma. They are based off trauma and they can be healed, guys. They can be healed. And if you cannot control lust, you cannot control aggression, emotions should be in your control and not controlling you. Emotions should not spill over and make the relationship a place of walking on eggshells, but they should become a place where you deal with them and you overcome them, you mature, and you walk not in emotions, but in the fruit of the Spirit of love, peace, joy, gentleness, kindness, self-control, faith. I mean, we're talking that your relationship, is guided by the fruit of the Spirit and not by emotions. So again, you know you are ready to get married if you have emotional maturity. Spiritual maturity contributes to emotional maturity. Another one is, this one I'll give it to you. Are you friends before you are dating? Or are you just friends? And if the phase of friendship was lost, create it. If it is not created, it's not going to come back. And you're going to find out you have been married and you're not friends. It's going to hurt. And also, I want you to understand, have you gone through something together and prevailed? Have you gone through something together and prevailed? We're talking, have you had a fight and prevailed? Some of you men, let me talk to you. The girl is so beautiful, you like her, but she's controlling and you don't know what to do. She's so controlling and you don't know what to do. And now you're heading into a marriage. I'll tell you what that marriage will be: a controlled marriage. You'll be controlled the rest of your life. If you don't deal with the spirit of control right now, it will come back to you in your marriage and you'll not be able to deal with it. And when you try to deal with it, it will force a very painful season in your life that could actually lead to a breakup. Better correct what needs to be corrected, because marriage only magnifies. It only magnifies what you're seeing. So look at some of these things. Have you gone through something together and prevailed? Have you talked about spending and talked about this irrational overspending that you're like, I don't want that, I'm not going to have that? And have you agreed on how you spend, your spending habits? Have you been able to clear it, talk through your spending habits? So again, these are some of the conversations. Have you had hard conversations about conflict? How did the relationship look after? Did it look dead or more healthier? Did it look more beautiful and healthier? Did it enable you to work better together, or did it become harder? Before I came to the studio, I had 3 hard conversations. 3. I'll tell you, as a pastor here at the Hub, hard conversations have given me the best teams I can imagine. 3 hard conversations. And hard conversations always end up with the greatest, most flourishing relationship. You need to go there, but you need the skills to go there, into those hard conversations, and come out better than you went. It may take long. One hard conversation took me 3 hours. 3 hours. I got drained. It's hard. But the fruit of it on the other side is the most beautiful, flourishing fruit of peace that I could ever imagine. Marry someone. You know you are ready to marry if someone is ready to resolve a tough thing with you and create a better structure, other than stonewalling, threatening, and being vicious when you're having a hard conversation. If it is all working good together, go ahead. And I'll tell you this, as my own children that I would talk to, or someone I really love, don't go with someone you've never had a fight and seen the other side of how that fight unfolds. And the person you've had the greatest, deepest, vulnerable conversation will probably be the person that you have the most fruitful, amazing relationship that is gonna hold off any other thing that may come to fight your marriage, and your marriage will prevail. Now, go for counseling. Go for counseling, and make sure as you go for counseling, you know your counselor is going to work with you and help you. We have 150 something questions that we give to the people who come for counseling. We do it for free. And those 150 something questions, they help you discuss so many areas and settle those conversations. And I think those questions can change everything about your life. I think they can. Anyway, I love you guys, and I'll see you soon right here at the Hub.